A massive fireball lit up the night sky. Then a towering mushroom cloud, visible from miles away. At 11 p.m. on May 17, 2026, panic spread among the residents of the Israeli city of Beit Shemesh as they watched the shocking explosion. Just 10 weeks earlier, the city had been struck by an Iranian ballistic missile that claimed the lives of 9 people. Everything pointed to this being another attack. As locals waited for confirmation of the Iranian missile and braced themselves for its toll, what they got was something quite different. The government-owned defense company that most Israelis had never heard of, called Tomer, made a statement assuming responsibility for the blast, which had apparently occurred at its nearby facility. According to Tomer, whose engines are found in virtually every significant Israeli missile system, including Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, the explosion had occurred at its nearby facility. Far from being the result of an attack or accident, it claimed, quote, "A routine and planned test was carried out, conducted according to plan, and achieving all its objectives." In other words, it was nothing to worry about. In 2021, an almost identical explosion at the same facility produced the same explanation. A planned test, no injuries, nothing to see. No further information was ever released. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the latest blast immediately raised questions. Firstly, what were they testing? Israel's Channel 12 reported, without citing sources, that the explosion involved propellants for rockets with ranges of thousands of kilometers, well beyond anything in the Arrow interceptor family. If accurate, that would suggest Tomer is developing propulsion for long-range offensive missiles, but it's never publicly acknowledged. Others have challenged the company's assertion that everything went smoothly. Unconfirmed reports circulated in Israeli media that the explosion may have damaged stockpiles of Arrow 3 interceptors stored at the site. The same system Israel was already rationing during its recent conflict with Iran. If true, a facility the Defense Ministry had just announced was wrapping up production may have suffered a significant setback and described it publicly as a success. Some voices in the Israeli media believe there might be an even larger cover-up going on. The newspaper Mariv noted that weapons companies always issue advance warnings before large tests. Tomer had claimed all emergency forces were notified beforehand. Yet security officials from both the Mate Yehuda Regional Council and the Beit Shemesh municipality went on record saying they had received no such notification. Mariv's conclusion was that, quote, "something is being concealed from us." Whatever the case, Tomer has now stated that it will warn the public before future tests, a decision that implies whatever has been happening at that facility will keep happening. Ukraine released footage of its first ever homegrown glide bomb, and what Kyiv isn't telling us about it may say more about their intentions than anyone expected. The video, posted to Telegram on May 18, 2026, by the country's defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, shows an Su-27 swing-wing attack jet releasing the bomb, painted red. Upon separation, the bomb topples, rotating to find its correct orientation, before wings snap out sharply and lock into place. Large cruciform tail fins hold it stable as it falls into its glide. The caption that accompanies the video confirms the development took 17 months. The warhead weighs 250 kilograms. An initial batch has already been purchased. Pilots are training now. In Fedorov's words, quote, "The first Ukrainian guided aerial bomb is ready for combat use." Yet the defense minister was careful to hold certain details back. He did not reveal the weapon's guidance system. The full range was not disclosed, with Fedorov merely claiming it could cover, quote, "dozens of kilometers." He did not share its accuracy, its total weight, whether it carries a terminal seeker capable of tracking moving targets, and which aircraft beyond the Su-24 can carry it. Those omissions are not accidental. They are the shape of everything Ukraine doesn't want an adversary to know before this weapon is used. Some sources are calling it the Vryovnyvach, Ukrainian for equalizer. Though that name hasn't been confirmed, if it's real, it's a pointed choice. Russian forces have been releasing approximately 3,500 UMPK-equipped glide bombs per month. General Alexander Syrsky, Ukraine's commander-in-chief, cited those weapons as a primary cause of the fall of the strategically important town of Avdiivka, captured by Russian forces in February 2024 after months of grinding assault. They've struck Kharkiv, Sumy, and Zaporizhia repeatedly, civilian infrastructure and frontline positions alike, delivered from within Russian airspace, beyond the reach of Ukrainian air defenses. What makes them so effective is also what makes them so difficult to answer. They're cheap, they are precise enough, and the aircraft launching them never have to get close. Until now, Ukraine's answer to that threat has depended entirely on weapons it doesn't fully control. The glide bombs in Ukraine's current arsenal, America's JDAM-ERs and French AASM hammers, come with restrictions on where they can be used. Targets inside Russia, certain infrastructure, and certain coordinates have required permissions that Washington and Paris have not always been willing to grant. However, a domestically built munition needs no such approval. As Fedorov put it, Ukraine is moving, quote, from importing individual solutions toward developing its own high-tech weapons. This bomb answers to no one but Kyiv. Yet it may not be the only one. In August 2024, a video emerged of a different unidentified munition being released from a Ukrainian Su-24. Never acknowledged, never named. Ukraine says development of today's weapon began in December 2024, months after that earlier footage appeared. Whether the two are connected or entirely separate, nobody is saying. What is certain is that somewhere in Ukraine right now, pilots are training with a weapon whose guidance system remains undisclosed, pointed at a target list no one else gets to approve. A Florida photographer, pointing his camera at jets outside Eglin Air Force Base on May 13, 2026, accidentally captured the first public image of America's most classified air-to-air missile, a weapon built specifically to counter China's growing dominance in beyond visual range combat. Jonathan Tweedy didn't realize what he had until he got home and reviewed his images. He sent a photo to a friend, knowledgeable in military technology, who identified it immediately. What Tweedy had caught on camera, loaded live onto a Navy FA-18F Super Hornet from the VX-31 test squadron, was the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile. Tweedy monitored air traffic control during the flight and heard chatter indicating the fighter had released its missile over the Gulf of Mexico. Approximately an hour later, the aircraft returned without the weapon, though it's unclear whether it was a separation test or live fire. Tweedy's photographs reveal that the AIM-260 has a noticeably cleaner profile than the AIM-120 AMRAAM it replaces. No fins or surfaces along the midsection, just a smooth body built to cut through the air with as little resistance as possible. The result is a missile that bleeds less speed over distance, which at ranges of over 100 miles matters enormously. The rocket motor section is visibly larger than the AMRAAMs, and analysts believe it uses a dual pulse design, essentially an engine that can fire twice, holding back a second burst of thrust for the terminal phase, when the target is maneuvering hard to escape. Combined with estimated speeds approaching Mach 5, roughly a mile per second, that leaves a target very little time and very little room. Crucially, the missile appears to share the same overall dimensions as the AMRAAM, meaning it slots directly into existing weapons bays on the F-22 and F-35 without redesign, a deliberate shortcut designed to get it into the fight as quickly as possible. The problem is that it's not been quick enough. The AIM-260 was supposed to reach initial operational capability in 2022. So far, it still hasn't, with officials as recently as October 2025 publicly contradicting each other about why. One citing integration problems with 5th-gen fighters, another insisting the program was progressing well. During these 4 years of delays, China didn't wait. The PL-15, fielded in 2015 with an estimated range of 185 miles, was already the missile that forced Washington to start this program. Then in 2021 came the PL-17, with an estimated range of over 300 miles. With the US falling behind and China racing ahead, the gap that the AIM-260 was built to close kept widening in both directions. This goes some way to explaining the extraordinary secrecy surrounding it. The program is designated a Special Access Program, one of the most restricted classification levels in the US military. The Air Force constructed a dedicated storage vault at Hill Air Force Base, specifically to house it. For 9 years, no public photograph existed. Which raises an important question. Why now? Was this really a security slip-up by the Air Force, accidentally allowing a man with a camera to reveal one of its most closely guarded missiles to the world? Or did they deliberately allow it to happen? Selective visibility of classified programs has been used before as a deliberate deterrence mechanism, a way of signaling capability to an adversary without revealing complete technical parameters. It remains unclear whether the Pentagon wanted this photograph to be taken, intending it to serve as a message for Beijing, or simply failed to prevent it. Either way, the missile America spent 9 years hiding from the world is no longer hidden. The next time it appears in public, it may not be over the Gulf of Mexico. There was something strange about Russia's most advanced fighter. Out of nowhere, its cockpit suddenly appeared to have a second seat. A strange photo of what looked to be a new Su-57 Felon variant was shared on a Russian Telegram channel on May 16, 2026. The image was disputed almost immediately. The background had been deliberately obscured. The aircraft's designation was unknown, and the source, while credible, was unofficial. Yet 3 days later, any doubts about the two-seater Felon's existence were put to rest. On May 19th, Russian state defense conglomerate Rostec released official imagery and footage of the same aircraft, referred to as the Su-57D, completing its maiden flight, flown by Sukhoi's chief test pilot and hero of Russia, Sergei Bogdan. Whether the initial image was shared on purpose as a trial balloon, designed to gauge international reaction before Moscow committed officially, or simply an unauthorized leak that forced Rostec's hand, is unclear. Less clear still is what exactly Russia intends to do with this aircraft. So far, the country's officials have been deliberately vague about its intended primary role, simultaneously suggesting several. One of the two-seater fighter's potential uses is shown on its tail, which carries a new marking, its own silhouette, alongside that of the S-70 Okhotnik, Russia's stealthy heavy combat drone. Rostec's statement mentioned that the new Felon would be able to, quote, organize and manage combat operations of a joint group of manned and unmanned aircraft. Russia has already tested the single-seat Su-57 in teaming exercises with the Okhotnik. A second crew member, dedicated to managing drone formations, would fundamentally change what the Felon can do in combat. And it mirrors precisely what China is building the two-seat J-20S to achieve. Another role that's been floated is that of a trainer. Algeria became the first confirmed foreign operator of the Su-57 in late 2025, with pilots already conducting familiarization flights. Without a two-seat variant that allows an instructor to be present, any foreign customer faces an enormous pilot conversion burden, which Russia's limited established training infrastructure cannot support. The Su-57 is extraordinarily complex to fly. Its thrust vectoring controls and extreme maneuverability demand a high level of proficiency that inexperienced pilots cannot safely develop in a single-seat aircraft alone. Defense journalist Peter Susiu, writing for the National Interest, concludes that, quote, it seems far more likely that a twin-seat Su-57 is intended for use as a trainer on the single-seat variant than as a combat aircraft with a weapons systems officer. He cites the specific needs of its sole existing customer, as well as the fact that only 76 single-seat Su-57s are on order for Russia itself, and only a few dozen have actually been built, an extremely small fleet to be developing a specialized two-seat combat variant around. What makes the program unusual is that it exists at all, given its origins. According to Rostec, the Su-57D was developed by specialists at United Aircraft Corporation, Russia's state-owned aerospace conglomerate, entirely on their own initiative, without a formal order from the government. UAC's CEO, Vadim Badeka, was explicit that the aircraft would, quote, contribute to its success in international markets. This is not a Russian Air Force program. It's a commercial gamble by an aircraft manufacturer that struggled for years to produce enough single-seat Su-57s to meet even Russia's own modest order. Russia is attempting to expand a fighter program it's never fully resourced, in a country under sweeping international sanctions during a war that's already consumed 4 Su-57s, all destroyed on the ground by Ukrainian drones striking deep inside Russian territory, none lost in the air. Against this uncertain backdrop, the biggest question now surrounding the two-seater Felon is not so much what it can do, but who it's actually going to be used by. Algeria has not confirmed an order. India was once the most promising candidate, but its joint venture with Russia to develop a two-seat Su-57 derivative, the fifth-generation fighter aircraft program, collapsed in 2018. It's been suggested that this was partly because, at the time, Moscow wouldn't deliver the two-seat configuration New Delhi wanted. That aircraft now exists, but India is neither committing nor walking away, with India's state-owned aerospace and defense manufacturer, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, still awaiting Russian costings for local production. Whether India bites, or anyone else does, may determine whether the Su-57D ever moves beyond a single prototype.